Today, I'm your host, Greg Roulette, and right now I am talking with best-selling author and a safe money advisor, John Bennett. John, welcome to New York.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a fun,
pleasure.
beautiful day here in the summertime in New York City, and we're talking about some very important things today because there are so many people out there who need to be educated. They need to understand what it's like to accumulate money so that they can have a better life for themselves in the future. Before we talk about that, I want to learn a little bit more about your upbringing in West Virginia and how that's led you to doing what you're doing today.
Well, I was raised on a farm in West Virginia, and I learned from the very beginning, or I thought that I had to work hard and long hours to make any money. I learned how to work hard at a very young age.
I'm sure.
Okay, and my parents moved from West Virginia to Maryland when I was 14 years old. And we was up there about 2 weeks, and my mother got me a job at a grocery store. And I wound up working 7 days a week in that grocery, because I wanted to make as much money as I could to be able to help my family, to get the things that we needed, the necessary things that we needed. So anyway, I worked at that for quite a while, different things, because I'll tell you, being from the mountains, we had nothing. Even school clothes were still. I can remember going to school in the winter time with just a t-shirt on and a jacket. And I remember this fortune lady said, "John, what's the matter? Don't you have any shirts?" I said, "No, I don't have that." So he said, "Oh," and he walked away. That wasn't good, So I just wanted to work and work and work.
Yeah.
So that's why I started. And after a while later in my life, I started a swimming pool business and home improvement.
All right.
And as everybody knows, that's hard physical work.
It is.
What does do with that? But after about 20 years of that,
wow.
Yeah, I realized that, John, you got to start working harder and smarter and not harder.
You had the hard work down. You had the hard work down. Yeah.
You got to start working smarter and not harder.
Yeah.
So I looked around and I started to see what I could do to help people. I love helping people. And since I had bought my first life insurance policy at the age of 16,
wow.
And I realized then how important it was, but the longer that I grew into business, and the more that I learned about the business, the more I realized how important it really was and how many benefits it had that could help all kinds of people, single, married families, all that, And I wonder why in the world more people didn't have these things. And every time I would hear somebody passing away or dying without any insurance, I said, why? Why in the world did they have?
It's heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking. I said, why in the world did they not have that coverage so the family could keep their home, could keep the same lifestyle, could have the money for college education, and et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. So then I just realized that was a big need for the people out here, So I made a mission for myself to be able to help my customers to satisfy and help them to have a better life.
Right.
And there's many of them out there. They're all over the place.
Right.
A lot of people out there need some help. That they need a professional to help them put a plan together and stick with it. I can remember stories. I can remember 2 stories, well, lots of them. But this is a story of an older couple in Plant City, Florida. I went in the home there, it's a little small house, old furniture, it's all antique now.
Yeah.
But anyway, and a very small refrigerator. I'm sitting at the table, talking to the gentleman, and he told me, he said, "John, my wife is bedridden," which I could see her from where I was.
Right.
He said, "I've got to make the decision this month to buy medicine for her or food for the refrigerator." And I could see he was really depressed. And that broke my heart. It still bothers me today, to tell the truth, honestly, And the very next day, I'm in this nice big home, the Cadillac in the garage, the boat in the yard, nice couple. And they were the same age as the first couple was. And I said, what's the difference here? Well, the difference is this guy had a plan put together and worked the plan. The first couple had no plan, they just lived day to day. And I tell you, Greg, there are so many people out there like that. it's a sad thing. It don't have to be.
Yeah.
So that's when I really put the goal together, a mission together. I was going to help as many of my clients as I could to satisfy and help them so that they could have a better life.
Nice. And what I want to focus on today is talking about planning early. Yeah. So, there's a lot of focus on retirement, but, sometimes when you get to 60, 65, 70, it might be too late, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And I mean, there's still ways around it, but today we want to talk about that accumulation process is as you're working, as you're growing, as you're building your family, as you're, expanding some of your assets. So what are some of the things that we need to be thinking about during this phase of our life?
During that phase of life, it's so critical, and if people just watch what they spend, not waste their money, okay? They gotta have what we call the emergency funds. I call it GKW for God knows what, because stuff is always popping up unexpected.
Always, yeah.
Always.
Oh,
I don't care who you are, But if people would just stop wasting their money, it doesn't take very much for a little bit of money to add up over a period of 20, 30, 40 years.
Right.
You've got a lot of it in there, And this one couple that I talked about earlier, there was another side to that story, was that a friend of mine had a place of business, and I was visiting him one day, and he introduced me to one of his foremen. Well, his foreman was a real nice young man, and I got this small talk, and I found out from him that he had a wife, was married, 2 kids, okay, and me, this is the part that bothers me, is that I never said one word to him about having protection for his family if anything happened to him. Well, about 2 months later, he got killed.
Oh, no.
Accident with 0 life insurance bond. With 0. He didn't have money. They had to actually put an ad in the paper to take up donations to help bury him. I said, how a shame, what a shame. But why don't people have this protection so they can protect it, so people can keep their homes, and keep the lifestyle they got.
So where do they start? Right, and so what's kind of the first things they need to be thinking about during this process?
The first thing is just get with a professional, help them to put a plan together that they can live with. Don't try to overdo it, because if you try to overdo it, it's not right.
Right.
But show them how to take advantage and not waste their money. That's a biggest concern.
And so how do you help them to do that, especially as a safe money advisor? What are some of the strategies that you put in place to make sure that they have the right plan that is going to help them so that they don't go through the situations that you just described?
Well, there's products out there. You can put a little bit of money in it, a monthly pay, $100 or a couple $100, whatever they can afford.
Right.
And it builds up because it has a nice cap on it. I'm talking about like a 13% cap.
Oh, wow.
I mean, that's good. And it gives them protection for number one. If something happened to them, their family's taken care of.
It's very important.
You're right. And it gives them cash flow, in other words, for emergency monies that you can have if they need something happens that you need an extra several $1,000s, they got it. They can become their own banker. And I'll show them how to become their own banker, which a lot of people don't even think that's possible.
Right.
And that's a wonderful thing.
That's huge. You're born when it gets the money.
I've used it personally. I put my son in that product when he was 16. He's 48 now. And he uses it to buy 2 houses. It's cutting down on houses. But anyway, there's a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And it takes, but you just got to start with a plan, get an appointment, and start with that, and put it together, and make sure everybody's protected, and it'll give you peace of mind. Number one,
definitely.
you can sleep good at night time without having big concerns,
Yeah.
So it really is.
Yeah, that's powerful. And we're here, we're in Times Square. We got an incredible band playing behind us. It's beautiful. I mean, Wall Street's down the corner, and I think I know the answer to this question, but I want to talk to you about, if you were looking at the startup version of yourself, right? Back at 16 when you're putting in the hard work, back when you got into insurance business, I mean, what advice would you give yourself back then that could really help out some of our younger viewers today?
Well, I tell you, back then, hindsight's a great thing, right?
It is.
I should put more money into a plan like that, because the accumulation, the compounded interest, as you know, goes a long way.
Yeah.
And it can tend to grow up there. And it's to benefit, like I just said, my son for years, I've used that.
Yeah.
And I had cancer, which I was off from work for a whole year. But because of my plan, that's what got me sick, because I had no income at that.
Right.
And that's what it's all about. If people use it and put it together and don't waste their money, don't spend more than they earn. That's the secret.
Yeah.
A lot of people make $100 and go spend $120.
You
can't do that.
It's the common sense, but not always common practice.
There you go.
And I think that's
there you
the
go.
starting
That's right.
place.
So that's what it really is. It's very enjoyable, very rewarding to be able to help these people, and when you see the end results.
Yeah.
That's when it's good.
I love that. I know you're helping a lot of people all over with the work that you're doing. And if they're watching right now and they're like, I think John can really help me to develop that plan, to really help me to be smart about my money, where should they go? How can they learn more about what you're doing?
If you're in another part of the world, but if you're in my neck of the woods, call me, I'll help you out.
I know you will, and I know you got books, you got resources, you have all kinds of great stuff, and you'd love to have them in the office.
I just say, I've been doing this for over a quarter of a century.
Yeah.
So and I give my clients my personal attention, which is a big help, because what happens, they always come to me, they send me nice referrals because of that.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, the first couple of years after I was off for a year for this cancer situation, all of my business come from my referral.
That's great.
And that's a wonderful
Just built
thing.
a great community, a great
really
group of people you work for. And
when I tell people that across the country in my business, they say, "My gosh, John, that's great." I said, "I'm not saying to brag. I'm saying because I'm proud of the fact."
Yeah, you're very proud.
Yes, the rest of them, they come in here and they say, "Hey, I'm so and so. My friend told me to come and see you. Here you go." Oh, yeah. That was good, isn't it?
So, John, I just want to say thanks again for coming out to New York, hanging out with us today, and really sharing some of these stories, because it is a very powerful mission, a very powerful thing that you do to help people.
It is.
And just thanks so much for joining us here today.
God bless you.